be a possibility thinker is that you must always look ahead and look at those who have achieved, those who have been successful in the areas and spheres in which you operate or you want to focus on and you want to be successful in, or that you're already successful in and you want to be even more successful. If I was going to think about my own life in that regard, and the time I spent thinking about the kind of life I wanted to live as a professional, I remember my days working with Chief Ogubanjo, and it was clear in my mind, although I had so many other opportunities to do all the different things. It was the beginning of the life of the fancy bankers. It was the beginning of the life of the oil traders. And I had the opportunity to look into all these areas of vocation. One thing struck me when I went for my law school attachment, Chief Ogubanjo's chambers, that this was a person I desired to emulate. I liked the arrangement of his workspace. And ironically, I liked the ability and the way they enabled even those of us who knew little or no law at the time. They enabled us to contribute, to be part of a thinking process, to be part of thinking outside the box. That was the first time we had deep strategy thinking sessions. He listened attentively to everybody and he broke down, summarized, and he gave us confidence. So it was easy for me to look at him as somebody I could emulate. And as I sat with my partner, when I started thinking about how we would start my law office, and we were thinking what we thought was strategy, we always went back to what kind of law firm did we want to build? What kind of people did we want to have in the law firm? And what kind of legacy did we want to leave behind? Unfortunately, I hadn't read this book then. So I suspect our thinking was going from place to place and jumping from place to place. But one way or the other, at least, I think we got to a certain area where we were able to determine that we wanted to build a law firm that will last, that will sustain, that with hard work and focus would be a good law firm. Our ambition was probably be one of the best law firms in the environment, and we will work at it. And that will be ethical, place a high store on integrity, but our thoughts kept going all over the place. And it took us about a year before we could aggregate those thoughts to implementation stage. But we were always focused on one thing. I was focused on Chief Ogubanjo and how he built his firm and the kind of firm he had. So it's fundamental and it's important that you must have a focus when you're thinking about the possibility that you seek to achieve. At that time, there were many law firms, and at that time, it was difficult to start any business in Nigeria. It was a time of mild depression, mild economic depression, and it was a time where people were not confidently or easily supporting startups by rookies. So it took a lot of hard work and a lot of deep thinking, which again, I admit at the time, without the benefit of the experience we have today, was thinking all over the place. And I dare say that whatever we got to and wherever we've been able to get to has been latter day structured thinking. So it's clear that if you think well and you think hard, you can be successful. But I don't want to imagine how much easier it may have been, how much better we may have done things, how much more efficient, and how much more globally situated our law firm would have been if we'd had the benefit of reading this book. I'll go on to his seventh skill that any successful person must imbibe. And that's what he calls reflective thinking. Most of us act before we think, many of us. It's reflex, sometimes impulsive. But he says that as we think, and as we think deeply, and as we think big picture, as we think outside the box, we must reflect. We must reflect on those things that worked and those things that didn't work, those things that can work and those things that can't work. And the key to reflective thinking is that at the end of the day, it gives you a true perspective, and it increases your confidence in decision making because you've thought about it, you've looked at what happened, you've looked at the mistakes, you've looked at the mistakes that other people have made, and you're in a better position to think through and to implement what it is you seek to do. And reflective thinking always clarifies the big picture. Again, you can teach yourself reflective thinking. So to teach yourself reflective thinking, you set aside time for it. Very quickly, talk about the other skills. And specifically, I want to talk about the questioning popular thinking. Many of us fall into this thing of going with the crowd. Maxwell says that we must never do that. That's the easy way out. He says that we must always question, challenge, and interrogate what people say. That's the way we do it. You know, we go into establishments, we go into institutions, and everybody's talking about that's the way we do it. Ninth thing, Maxwell says we must share our thinking. When you've thought about an idea and you have different ideas you've thought about, do not be afraid to bring your thinking out into the public and share it with those that can add value to what you've thought about. Many of us, when we have thought about a great idea, we hide it and keep it to ourselves. And then it gets lost somewhere because we're not able to effectively implement and we don't understand how to implement. Practice unselfish thinking. You have to add value to others. You have to think in a way that adds value to others. You have to encourage other people and encourage other people's virtues. You can never, ever be the only star in the firmament. You must encourage other people and you must give dues to whom those dues are automatic, necessary, and those who have worked to achieve and to think through processes. Leadership is clear. Leadership steps back and enables those who work with you take the accolade and the glory. Unselfish thinking improves your quality of life. And you must think in a way that must improve your quality of life. Finally, he talks about bottom line thinking. And bottom line thinking varies and differs from person to person. For many of us, profit determines whether we are succeeding or not. The amount of money we have made or we make determines whether we have succeeded or not. But that should not be the primary driver or primary determinant of success. There's success in different spheres. And so we must quickly identify what our success point is or what our bottom line is and work and seek to achieve success where our bottom line is. In closing, I just want to talk very briefly and very quickly about success and bottom line. And I think it's important I talk about it because success to many has been narrowed. And as I kept reading the book and kept thinking of how I can learn to improve how I think and how I can become a better thinker and hopefully a more successful person, it struck me that honestly, what truly is success? And I'll go to two parts of the book. I'll first go to page 112, and I'll read very quickly. How do you figure out the bottom line for your organization, your business, your department? In many businesses, the bottom line is literally the bottom line. That is, profit determines whether you're succeeding. But dollars should not always be the primary measure of success. Will you measure the ultimate success of your family by how much money you had at the end of the month? And if you run a nonprofit or a volunteer organization, how would you know whether you are performing at your highest potential? So how do you determine bottom line in that situation? Then I also very quickly go to page 104. And on page 104, where he talks about practicing unselfish thinking, he tries to determine a type of success and define a type of success. He says he has achieved success who has lived well, laughed often, loved much, who has enjoyed the trust of pure women, the respect of intelligent men, and the love of little children, who has filled his niche and accomplished his task, who has left the world better than he found it, who has always looked for the best in others and given them the best that he had, whose life was an inspiration, whose memory a benediction. So what truly is success? Is success when you become top of your profession, vocation, or craft? Or you have distinction in service? Or when you're providing help to many in your community? Or is it when you bring up a well-cultured, well-nurtured family with strong values? Or is it cultivating a group of followers focused on creating value? Or is it building a strong, successful, and sustainable business? Is success being on the front page of Forbes? Is that what success means to you? Or being an influential religious leader, an innovator, a creator, or a distinguished life-changing teacher? But whatever success means to you, Maxwell, in his book, teaches you how to achieve even greater success if already you're successful. And if you think you're not, it teaches you how to become successful. Enabling me to read this book has pointed me in another direction, and I know it was significant to my life. I commend the book to everybody that's on the platform. I'm not sure I've had time to do it justice, but you must find time to read it. You pick it up on a Saturday, no matter how busy you are and how many weddings you go, you'll be done by Sunday evening. And it's a book that you need to keep reading over and over again. Because each time I read it, because I managed to read it twice before today, I picked up something totally different, and I picked up a different interpretation, and I picked up a different way. So I commend the book to all of us.